Michael Williams back live at the Democratic Debate Hall in downtown Miami. It's not to the point if you don't have my roundtable with me. So down they came. Brian Crowley, longtime political reporter for the Palm Beach Post, CrowleyReport.com, and Mariana Mancuso, Republican political strategist. You've heard me talking to your analyst. Your first take on the Democratic debate as we concentrate on the 10 candidates tonight led by Elizabeth Warren. What do you expect to hear? What do you expect their messages to be to the American people?
Well, I think they're going to have to talk a lot about the economy. I think they're going to have to talk a lot about climate change, since they're in Florida in particular. I think they're going to have to talk about other environmental issues. I think there's going to be a lot of discussion about Medicare for all or universal health care. Those kinds of issues are critical for the Democrats, and I think the Democratic Party, particularly the hardcore left part of the party, they need to gel those into the Democratic Party fairly quickly. And they're going to be looking to see who does the best job in handling those issues tonight.
Mariana?
I think that people will be watching Elizabeth Warren as well as Castro. I'd keep my eye on him.
Julian
He could
Castro.
surprise us. Yeah, he could surprise us, absolutely, coming out swinging. But really, it's going to be a make or break night for the other people on the stage, including Beto O'Rourke, because if they don't make a name for themselves tonight, they won't have another opportunity until the second debate. So really, they've got to kind of come out swinging.
You heard me talking to your analysts. There's been a lot of discussion. Where is the Democratic Party going? More to the progressive wing, or do we nominate a centrist like a former Vice President Joe Biden? I talked to some analysts earlier, said in some ways the Democrats don't want the nation to see that kind of nasty debate that's going on internally, but it's going to happen. How do you see that playing out, Brian? Because you're trying to appeal to your base, trying to make a broader appeal, and yet it could be some bare knuckles.
You know, I think Democrats should look back at 2016 Republican debates and get a sense of what could happen this time. You know, when Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio and some of the others that got into that race, the 16 candidates that race, a lot of them tried to be moderates. They were talking about how they had to bring people together and talk about education and those kinds of issues. And what happens? You get somebody that comes in with nothing but red meat, nothing but throwing punches, and the next thing you know, Donald Trump is their nominee. So I think something similar could happen in this cycle. I think there's some people in the Democratic Party who want somebody who's going to be able to go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump and go punch for punch. I think there's others who think that issues are more important than doing that, and I think that we have to be careful that the Democrats don't blow themselves up too soon.
Mariana, same thought, and around that are the optics of tonight. It's a debate, but in fact, many said it's really a soundbite fest because you're going to have maybe a total, if the questions are spread broadly, 6 to 8 minutes apiece. And you want that viral moment that all the media and everybody else, and particularly you at home, are saying, aha, talking about. Size that up.
They're definitely going to try and come out with a shock and awe moment and say those things that gets people really ramped up, right? And with the debates, because there's such limited time, they have to really get out there and say the craziest things. So I think what we're going to see is some of the Democrats are going to push really far left in order to allow that type of red meat, so to speak, to come out and come to fruition tonight.
Well, and in fact, we said, for instance, somebody who's way down in the polls, but former Representative of Maryland, John Delaney, said, Medicare for all. I want to see how the numbers add up there, Senator Warren. And so you could hear that kind of debate tomorrow night. Former Colorado Governor Hickenlooper said today to us, and when I asked him, he said, democratic socialism, Bernie Sanders, is not the answer. He didn't mention Senator Sanders. So I think we're going to see that. It's going to be interesting to your point, though, where people have a sense of where their base lies. And the larger question in a poll this week where Democrats said, forget all that for a moment. We want somebody with experience. That was their number one criterion in an AP nationwide poll.
Well, this is the same party that elected Barack Obama the first time with no
A
real
experience,
little experience in government at that point. So, they may say that now.
Because
what they're saying,
there was a spark, and to
right,
your point earlier.
Exactly. A lot of people dismissed Barack Obama when he first started running. So you never know what's going to fire voters up, and I think that you have to be careful when you're watching these candidates. You can't be too dismissive of some of them too soon. Remember, again, 2016, most people thought Donald Trump was going to fade away. A lot of Republicans thought he was a joke, and what happened? Donald Trump becomes the nominee. So I don't think the next 2 nights are going to be the end-all of most of these candidates.
And Tom, I don't know if we can put back up the full screen of the 10 tonight, but you have Elizabeth Warren we've talked about. Perhaps we can put the full screen of tonight's candidates. Cory Booker, the New Jersey senator, who's certainly eloquent out on the stump, still trying to find his way in the polls.
So I believe gets center stage tonight.
Yeah. Amy Klobuchar, the Minnesota senator's always won big in her elections, trying to say, I'm the one who can bridge the differences here as we look at all the candidates. You mentioned Julian Castro, the New York mayor here, all of them trying to find that moment. And so To your point, Brian, and to yours, Mariana, that the alchemy and what happens on the stage can make or break people in just a few hours' time.
We're going to watch them really try and gain their ground, and I think that it's going to be very important to pay attention to what they're saying, because they're not going to have much time to say it. So are they going to come out swinging, saying the most inflammatory thing they can, or are they actually going to try and make sense and talk policy and really get to the nuts and bolts of it?
Brian?
I think especially for the lesser known candidates, it's probably more important for them tonight to introduce themselves to their fellow Democrats. The fact of the matter is that a lot of these candidates nobody knows anything about. They've never heard of them. And so this is an introductory night to the regulars in the party, to the activists in the party. So I don't know that I think the unknown Democrat should be that interested in throwing punches as opposed to just introducing themselves, suggesting some policy ideas, and presenting the notion that they can move forward and eventually become the nominee.
Establishing differences without outright division. And I always hear from strategists, if you're a candidate, you at least want people to go away and say, I could see them as presidential, he or she. At least coming away with that. One last question, big cycle on fundraising. The cast of characters we see tonight and tomorrow night may be broadly different by mid-July with fundraising deadlines. Final quick comment.
Well, very quickly, if you do poorly tonight, you're not going to raise any more money, and if you're especially if you're a lower tier candidate and you can't raise money, you might get a bus ticket home.
This ticket of 20 may be reduced rapidly. We'll be back with more in a moment.